Bob Davis, and I'm 71 years old, and I was born about 70 feet over there in that house over there, the white one on the right-hand duplex, the right-hand side of it. I was born there in 50. And the government at that time had just started letting go of them about in 47. You used to rent them, but that was before my time, and they started letting go of them. See, they started selling them in 47.
What was growing up here like?
Oh man, it was the most idyllic situation that a young kid could be in, and I thought about that a lot of years. But the reason I say that is they let World War II veterans have an option on these things. In other words, if a veteran showed up to buy one, and we're talking in 47, so they were free from the service, free from the war. If two people showed up and one of them was a veteran, the veteran got it. And you grow up in a town with a good number of World War II veterans that were your baseball coach, your Sunday school teacher, your football coach. Anyway, it's just a different deal, and you don't pull the wool over their eyes. I mean, these guys just got back from Europe when they went over there and kicked Hitler butt. So the chances of you getting by with a whole lot, it just didn't work that way. But growing up here, that fourth house right up there, there was a guy that was on Patton's staff in the Army. He was on Patton's staff. And of course, the war was just over a year or two before that. My dad over here, he was a B-17 pilot, and he learned how to fly in the Memphis Belle. And he ended up getting shot down over there in Europe, and he and his whole crew got out. He won Distinguished Flying Cross. It's a pretty fancy flying to get them out of trouble, but they got shot down on a bomb run. Right over here at the second house, Mac McClendon, most of the old timers knew him, but he was a student pilot in the U.S. Navy, and he came down with polio, and that was while he was in his training. It wasn't a battlefield deal. And so the Army sent him to Warm Springs, Georgia, and there was a fella over there named FDR who worked out and exercised with him when Mac was in town, or when both of them were there. They were kind of exercise partners. And going down 2 streets over, J.C. Wisnat, my Sunday school teacher, he was a prisoner of war from over in Japan, and he lived through all that. And like I say, he was my Sunday school teacher. I saw his name a while back on a Veterans Memorial down at the VA on the second floor. They got a little alcove there with everybody's names engraved on it, and there's JC. But these folks were the ones. Oh yeah, right up here at the curve. You walk all the way up Brentwood through the past Rock Ridge and go up there and past the curve. Tommy Biggs. I went to school with his kids, but he, on D-Day, was flying a glider, and had a crew of folks in there, and it came down real hard, kind of a crash, and I think he broke a leg or something. But that was That was right over there in the middle of the action, you know, D-Day. And you can just go on and on, you know. And it made it a special place to grow up.
What are some of the special things to you about the homes you've lived in, or just the neighborhood in general? What's best about it?
You go in where they're building a house now. It's going to be, well, we'll say these old ones. You had some pine that came out of southern Alabama, northern Florida, and it was, let me think, those things were growing down there. They're growing down there before Columbus came here. And that is your floor. You go over there, and my wife got carpet on that one right there, kind of protecting it. But the whole house had that old pine. The trees had never been disturbed. And what I'm talking about now are building materials. It's just the way that they were built. This siding right here, that's older than Jesus is. They got it out of the Pacific Northwest. And the guy that was head of this thing, what's his name?
Of the Resettlement Administration?
Yeah.
Tugwell?
Yeah. Tugwell told them when they came in here, and this thing had gotten a late start. A lot of them had been finished for 3 years. And he came and got the job, and he said, I got trouble down there at that slag heap joint. I got to, come on, let's go down there and check this out. Said they're running way behind. So he came over and looked around and said, hey, he said, I like what I see here, change it around. These aren't going to be little farmettes. They're going to be a different type of community. And I want, what the quote was that I want the best, I want these things built with the best material available with no economy of labor. Now that's pretty strong when you're talking about construction.
Yeah. Well, and you think about that now. I mean, that was, 1935, 1936 through 38. Yeah. And just about all of this neighborhood, all those 287 homes, still intact, almost to the original. So it speaks to how well it was done.
But nowadays, you got a bunch of wafer board. You got stuff that's squirted out of a machine on the evening shift up there in northern Mississippi. You got when these were built, you didn't have, there was no sheetrock. We're talking plaster here. There was no sheetrock. Go in there and get a house built now and tell them I don't want any sheetrock. And then the foundations now are concrete block. If you said concrete block way back then, they'd say, what? they were brick. And then you had, anyway, the building supplies were unheard of, back then. Or unheard of back then, but you had like I said, plaster and your brick, and there's something else that isn't sold now. So the materials are all completely different, and every one of them had lasted. And you go into a place where the 287 houses 83 years ago, and they're all standing. They've had the little modifications, but nothing's happened to it. And there's been some fires. I remember counting back a couple of years ago, and I counted 5. But you know what happened when you had a fire? You built it back. That's unheard of. That's unheard of. Nobody wants to do that now. They look at, we'll do something different. We'll knock it down or something. But it,
just built to last. I mean, we're standing here in 2021.
But I go back to what old Rex said. He said, I want the best materials available with no economy of labor. And people were starving to death. They needed the work. And when you didn't do anything, you know, like halfway or do it wrong, let's stop it and get the right folks in there and get it done. And if you finished up, you know what that meant? You going on back to the house without a job. So it's something that you know, it said a lot when he said no economy of labor. Said we could work on these things till we get them right. You know.
That's right. So it I guess it's pretty special to you that today, like I just said a second ago, just 2021, and we can still see that history here. We can still see that character. Does that mean a lot to you?
It means everything.